Top 10 of the year. Number 10.
A crash on Highway 287 near Windthorst Road leaves a driver dead at the scene and a Wichita Falls resident with significant non-life-threatening injuries.
PJ Green joins us from Highway 287. So PJ, what can you tell us?
Well, right now, Melanie, we know that the dead driver has California license plates and has yet to be identified. And the Wichita Falls resident was transported to the hospital for their injuries. And now an eyewitness told me earlier of the wreck said the driver of a black Ford got off of the Central Freeway exit onto Highway 287. They put their car into reverse and then took a U-turn to drive northbound in the southbound lane of 287. The driver of the tan Ford was driving southbound in that southbound lane when it was struck by the dead driver.
No indication right now that he was having any kind of medical condition before that, or not to our knowledge. He'll obviously be sent off to have an autopsy completed.
Now, traffic was backed up earlier since authorities arrived on the scene, but as of now, it has been free-flowing and traffic has been flowing freely now. And so for more updates on this investigation, we will always keep you updated right here and on Texomashomepage.com.
Number 9.
Be prepared, but don't panic. That's the message from officials here in Wichita County after the first confirmed case of the coronavirus.
Shatanya Clark is following this for us and has more on the 64-year-old resident who tested positive.
Yeah, Jaron, health officials say the patient is in isolation now at home after returning from a trip to Hungary. Now, Public Health Director Luke Kreidler says the victim and spouse flew into DFW, then drove to Wichita Falls, and the only contact was with others through the medical visit. Now, the victim's symptoms included a sore throat and cough. The spouse self-isolated from the victim and has shown no symptoms just yet. Now, one resident I spoke with says she's feeling overwhelmed, but is taking the necessary precautions.
Stop freaking, and let's work this together.
Susan Phillips says both she and her husband have COPD, so staying clear of the coronavirus is of utmost priority to her and her family.
He's in palliative care because his lungs are trashed already. So any chance of him getting it is very high.
Now that Wichita Falls, Wichita County Public Health Director Luke Kreidler has announced the first case.
The patient is a 64-year-old Wichita County resident who traveled to Budapest in Hungary.
Phillips, who is overwhelmed by this news, says they will be even more cautious.
Well, we're trying to stay away from people in our isolation.
And county officials agree. They continue to stress the importance of taking all possible precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Practice social distancing, washing your hands often with soap and water, or using a hand sanitizer if water is not available.
Additionally, staying home if you are sick or staying away from those who are. Phillips also gives advice to residents who have been panic shopping.
We don't work together as a country. We won't, it'll just be people killing people over toilet paper and stuff.
Kreidler and Phillips agree residents should continue to do their part to prevent the spread of the virus. Also, United Regional officials are saying that in accordance with the CDC guidelines, testing is currently limited to individuals who meet a certain criteria and have a valid physician order for COVID-19 testing. So individuals should visit their primary care physicians to determine whether or not they should be tested and not to go to the emergency room unless they're experiencing symptoms such as chest pains and shortness of breath.
All right, good to know, Shatanya. Shatanya, thank you so much. A health district helpline is also available to residents with questions. It is right there at the bottom of your screen right now, 940-761-7909.
Number 8.
As Texas sets a record for new COVID-19 cases, parents like Vanessa Steinkamp waited anxiously for the state to spill on when she'll be able to send her 3 kids back to the classroom.
I don't know how we go back safely. I don't know that there is a safe way, but at least acknowledging that there are a cohort of students that find schools to be a safe place would be a good start.
Schools get money based on student attendance. A key piece of the crisis response this spring was waiving daily attendance mandates so schools wouldn't take a financial hit. With a full school year about 2 months away, the state developed framework of options to ensure schools have predictable funding and accountability for educating students. One method of approved remote instruction involves live virtual classes with real-time lessons and timed online tests. Another focuses on self-paced online courses with pre-recorded instruction.
Our teachers are ready right now, to go back to school in a virtual setting.
The state is recommending staff and students wear masks, sanitize hands, and stay 6 feet apart from each other, but stopped short of requiring those measures, leaving much of the control in the hands of local districts.
All students and educators have to be guaranteed that there's going to be enough personal protection equipment, clean sanitation equipment. I mean, everything that we know needs to be in place physically before we can even consider, opening schools.
Steinkamp hopes the state will be flexible about its plan.
Maybe we won't get to go back, but at least if we're weighing it and being honest about it, that's the best we can do.
Number 7.
The Wichita Falls Police Department is requesting any surveillance footage that may have captured the suspects in last night's homicide.
Police were called to the alley between Meadow Lake and Trade Winds off Fairway at around 10:30. That's where they found 23-year-old Jason Baum's body. Not long after that, officers blocked off Fairway from traffic.
One witness says they heard as many as 10 gunshots ring out. Officers say there were shell casings all around the crime scene, and as of right now, there are no suspects.
Crime Stoppers is offering a fresh 48 for this crime. That means if you have any information about this crime or any other felony crime, just call the number on your screen. You'll never have to give your name, and if your information leads to the arrest of the suspect in the next 48 hours, which started around noon today, with board approval, in this case, you could earn up to $3,000.
Number 6.
Complete autopsy results for Wilder McDaniel are finally released, and they shine a new light on how this little boy may have died.
2-year-old Wilder's body was found in Wichita Falls at the home of James Staley on Irving Place on October 11, 2018. Last week, Staley and Wilder's mother, Amber McDaniel, were named persons of interest in the boy's death. The cause and manner of Wilder's death were listed as undetermined in the preliminary autopsy, and the full autopsy results explain why.
The report from the chief medical examiner at the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences at Dallas describes the scene as irregular and highly suspicious of a homicidal death. The report says autopsy findings suggest an asphyxial cause of death, which happens when the airway is blocked.
It also says evidence at the scene with blood on his pillow suggests someone placed a pillow over Wilder's mouth and smothering him.
Number 5.
Tonight, a 25-year-old Wichita Falls man drowned this afternoon at Lake Arrowhead. After events, the Lake Arrowhead fire chief says happened very quickly.
It happened around 3:30 off Crow Trace Drive on the north end of the lake near the dam. Chief Mike Hall says a blow-up inner tube floated out in the lake from the shore and a man swam after it. He says just before this man could reach the tube, he called out for help and then went under. The man's body was recovered 2 hours later around 5:30.
Hall says Lake Arrowhead Ranch Estates also responded, as well as Clay County Sheriff's Office, DPS, and game wardens, among others. He also says this drowning victim and his family are in their prayers.
Number 4.
Clay County Judge Mike Campbell says coronavirus test results are negative for a Clay County girl who died unexpectedly this week from pneumonia-like symptoms. 7-year-old Addison Pope arrived at United Regional Wednesday afternoon, and because of her symptoms, medical workers initiated a COVID-19 test. Addison was later flown to Cook Children's Medical Center, where she passed away. Friends have set up an account at Legend Bank in Henrietta, Wichita Falls, and Bowie, and you can donate at those locations through the Addison Pope Memorial account. Find other ways that you can help the family with expenses too over at Texomashomepage.com.
Number 3.
A unanimous vote today, Wichita Falls City Council put a shelter-in-place order in effect for the COVID-19 crisis. Shatanya Clark sat in on what was a lengthy and at times passionate meeting this morning. So Shatanya, when does this order go into effect?
Melanie, tonight at 11:59 p.m. Now, city leaders, however, want residents to know this doesn't mean any essential businesses now open will be closed, and pleaded for reason and against residents rushing out to stores and panic shopping. The shelter-in-place order instructs people not to leave their residences except to travel to get to essential services or to essential workplaces. Also, not to gather outside homes with other people.
Don't look at these orders and ask, what can I get away with?
Tough conversations and hard decisions were made in an almost 5-hour-long meeting Friday morning as city leaders combed through a shelter-in-place ordinance, debating what should be and not be allowed.
All individuals currently living in the city of Wichita Falls to shelter at their place of residence except as authorized by this order.
Those exceptions are outlined as essential businesses or essential government functions. But what constitutes essential? The ordinance states establishments that provide basic necessities like food, water, and shelter. But this raised a lot of questions when folks questioned why a liquor store is considered essential but not a church. Dr. Vaughn Gray provided an answer.
With a medical condition like alcohol dependence, does not have alcohol within a 3 to 4 day span, they can go into withdrawal, which can be life-threatening, and develop a medical condition called delirium tremens.
Gray said if those stores are closed, there will be a flood of patients to the emergency rooms that will take critical beds. Other medical professionals in the crowd pled their case.
We understand now that this virus is 10 times more deadly than the flu.
As to why they believe the shelter in place is absolutely necessary.
Is there any scenario right now, even shelter in place, where we're not going to see deaths from the coronavirus in Wichita Falls?
I don't believe so.
And with alarming stats.
A date range for all the hospital beds being completely overrun by the virus, I would suspect somewhere around April 25th.
Gray estimated that all the ventilators will be taken up by April 19th.
When that happens, the death rate from coronavirus spikes from a 1% mortality, meaning 1% of everyone infected with coronavirus dies, to 5%.
More questions were raised regarding golf courses and nursery sales, both of which are prohibited, though changes were discussed about ways food plants could still be sold. Also, what could be done about large grocery stores that will continue attracting large numbers of customers? City leaders decided to continue conversation regarding amendments, which could mean many more meetings.
We're letting people know we're going to take this serious. This is a serious situation for our community, and the last thing we want is our hospitals getting inundated, so that's why we took this step.
And to enforce that, individuals caught violating the order can be fined up to $1,000, a violation Wichita Falls Police Department's Chief Borrego says his department intends on taking seriously. Now, unless the ordinance is terminated or modified, the order will expire on April 8th at 1 o'clock.
Shatanya, thank you so much for that. Now, if you have any questions as to whether or not your business is categorized as essential, you can contact a representative at the email right there on your screen, covidquestions@wichitafallstexas.gov.
Number 2.
So today, Texas has 57 confirmed cases across 15 counties, and Governor Greg Abbott has declared a statewide public health disaster. He joins us live from Austin to talk all about it. Governor, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. Okay, so you've spoken to the leading health experts and scientists on this issue. Now, based on what you've heard, how concerned should Texans be about this, especially here in Wichita Falls, where we haven't had any confirmed cases, but a lot of things have been canceled or postponed at this point in time?
Right. Because no cases have been identified in Wichita Falls, everyone in Wichita Falls must remain very vigilant to make sure that the COVID-19 disease is not imported into Wichita County. Know this, and that is this week we are ramping up testing very dramatically. We will be doing tens of thousands of tests of people across the state of Texas to find out whether or not they do have COVID-19. You will see exponential growth in the number of people who test positive for COVID-19. There will be people across the entire state of Texas who did not know they had COVID-19 who test positive. The likelihood that somebody from Wichita Falls traveling, let's say, to the Dallas-Fort Worth area could contract somebody there who has COVID-19 is very high. COVID-19 has been tested positive in Tarrant County, in Dallas County, in Denton County, in regions very close to Wichita Falls. It's very easy to spread this, so people in Wichita Falls need to be very careful.
Okay, Governor, and today you made the decision to waive testing requirements for this year's STAR exam. Now, tell me why you felt that was necessary to do.
What's happening in the state of Texas is that right now, more than half of the school districts in the state are closed for at least another month. It's just going to be impossible to implement that test, to have it be an effective strategy statewide for us to be able to evaluate how well kids are progressing. Know this also. Let's go back to Wichita Falls. Even though you don't have a case right now, even though schools are planning to come back when they are currently scheduled to come back, the way we are seeing this disease move so rapidly across the United States of America, don't be surprised if you see it causing greater disruption to your schools and to your community right there in Wichita Falls. Bottom line, there will be a need to ensure that we do not have the STAR test exam this year for Texas schools, and you may be seeing that very prolifically yourselves right there in Wichita Falls.
Right. Now, some states have also closed down their bars and restaurants during this period of time, which may present some economic issues going down the road. So can you see this happening here in Texas as well?
You know, not right now, not unless there's perhaps a federal mandate. Understanding this, for one, it does pose economic issues, but that issue aside, one thing that we are finding in the urban areas, and you're going to see this in some areas, maybe like Wichita Falls, and that is people you see these panicky lines of people trying to get food at grocery stores and things like that. One thing restaurants provide is food, and food is going to be something as people are going to be quarantined and holed up and isolated here in the coming days. People are going to need access to food. One thing restaurants can do is to provide them that food either at that restaurant, or they can deliver that food to someone's home, or somebody can go by and drive by and pick it up. Restaurants provide an important food function for our state right now.
Right, and we've seen that happening here. Now, do you have any update on whether you're considering any changes to the May 26th runoff? Because we know it falls kind of outside of that 8-week CDC window, but in early voting kind of begins pretty close to that point in time.
Right. My office is in the process of evaluating that as we speak. An announcement will be coming out this week about what we will do with any type of special elections that are taking place earlier in May, and then the May runoff time period, which is later in May. Decisions on both will have to be made very quickly.
And Governor, before we go, we wanted to ask how you and your family are staying safe during this time.
Listen, we're isolating and so that we don't come into contact with somebody who may have it. And I'm feeling healthy and fine right now. My wife tested for it and tested negative. And so things are looking good and healthy for us right now. We got to keep it that way because we're working only about 24/7 right now.
All right, Governor, stay safe and stay healthy out there. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. All the best in my hometown.
All right, thank you so much.
Number 1.
Wichita Falls teacher is still on administrative leave after being accused of having a sexual relationship with a former student.
After a Texas Ranger investigation, Old High choir teacher Christopher Glenn Jarvis turned himself in this morning on charges of improper relationship between an educator and student. According to the affidavit filed by the Texas Ranger, he began an investigation on August 27th and interviewed a former female student.
She said they would engage in sexual intercourse in the choir room closet where the choir robes were stored. She said following sex, Jarvis used old robes in the closet to clean himself off. On August 28th, officers searched the closet and seized 5 robes to be tested, and according to court documents, each robe reportedly had stains with DNA.
Superintendent Michael Kurtz says an internal investigation is still underway. Now, you can read Kurtz's full statement over at Texomashomepage.com. We will continue to keep you updated as further details on this become available.